What if I told you that the very habit you've been beating yourself up for might actually be your secret superpower? That procrastination, the thing that makes you feel guilty, lazy, and unproductive, could be rewired into one of your greatest strategic advantages? We've been lied to about procrastination. Society treats it like a character flaw, a weakness to overcome. But here's what nobody tells you. Your brain's tendency to delay isn't broken. It's actually trying to protect something valuable. Today, we're going to flip everything you think you know about procrastination on its head and show you how to transform this supposed weakness into a deliberate tool for better decisions, enhanced creativity, and peak performance. Chapter 1. The Procrastination Paradox. Here's something that might blow your mind. Procrastination isn't actually about time management. It's about emotion management. When you put off that important project, avoid making that phone call, or delay starting your workout routine, your brain isn't being lazy. It's running a sophisticated emotional protection system that's trying to shield you from potential pain, failure, or overwhelm. Think of your brain like a bodyguard who's maybe a little too protective. When it senses a task that might lead to criticism, rejection, or falling short of your own standards, it throws up a wall. That wall is procrastination. The bodyguard says, hey, let's just scroll social media instead. That's safe. That won't hurt us. This is why you can spend hours organizing your desk when you should be writing a report, or suddenly become motivated to clean your entire house when you have an important deadline looming. A fascinating part is that this emotional avoidance actually serves a purpose. Research from Dr. Joseph Ferrari shows that about 20% of adults are chronic procrastinators, and many of them report that their delays often lead to better outcomes. They're unconsciously buying time for their minds to process, for better opportunities to emerge, or for their motivation to align with their values. But here's where it gets interesting. There are actually two types of procrastination. Panic procrastination is that last-minute scrambling we're all familiar with. Strategic procrastination is a deliberate choice to delay action while your unconscious mind works on the problem. The key difference? Intention and awareness. Chapter 2. The Incubation Effect. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas come to you in the shower, during a walk, or right before you fall asleep? This isn't coincidence. It's your brain's incubation process at work, and it's the secret sauce behind strategic procrastination. When you consciously step away from a problem, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for focused thinking, gets to rest. Meanwhile, your default mode network, a collection of brain regions that activate during rest, starts making connections you couldn't see when you were trying so hard. It's like having a team of invisible assistants working on your project while you're doing something else entirely. Dr. Adam Grant's research on procrastination shows that moderate procrastinators are significantly more creative than both chronic procrastinators and people who never procrastinate at all. The sweet spot happens when you start a task. Then deliberately pause to let your mind wander before completing it. Here's how to harness this scientifically. Start your important projects early, but don't try to finish them in one sitting. Think of it like planting seeds in your mental garden. You plant the seed by reading the brief, understanding the requirements, and thinking about the problem for maybe 15 to 30 minutes. Then you walk away. Your unconscious mind will keep working on it, making connections and generating insights while you're consciously focused on other things. Try this experiment. Tonight, before you go to bed, spend 5 minutes thinking about a challenge you're facing. Don't try to solve it. Just let your mind explore the problem. Then go to sleep. Tomorrow, pay attention to any insights or ideas that pop up unexpectedly. You might be surprised at what your unconscious mind delivers. Chapter 3. Reframing the guilt. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Guilt. If you're a procrastinator, you're probably carrying around a heavy backpack of shame about your habits. Every time you delay something important, that inner critic gets louder. Why can't you just be disciplined like everyone else? Why are you so lazy? But what if that inner critic is actually making the problem worse? Here's a counterintuitive truth. Guilt about procrastination creates more procrastination. When you feel bad about delaying something, your brain associates that task with negative emotions. And what does your protective brain do with negative emotions? It avoids them even harder. You've created what psychologists call a shame spiral. Instead of fighting your natural tendencies, what if you could work with them? This requires a fundamental shift in how you view procrastination. Instead of seeing it as a character flaw, start seeing it as information. Your procrastination is trying to tell you something important about the task, your approach, or your emotional state. Maybe you're avoiding that presentation because you haven't clarified what you actually want to say. Maybe you keep putting off that difficult conversation because you need to process your emotions first. Maybe you're delaying that creative project because you're afraid it won't live up to your vision. When you reframe procrastination as your brain's way of saying, wait, we need to think about this differently, it stops being the enemy and starts being a valuable signal. This shift alone can reduce the emotional charge around delayed tasks and make them easier to approach when you're ready. Chapter 4. The Perfectionism Trap. Here's something most productivity advice gets wrong. It assumes procrastination is about being lazy, when it's often about caring too much. If you're a perfectionist, procrastination might actually be your psyche's way of protecting you from the possibility of creating something mediocre. Think about it. If you never start, you never have to face the reality that your work might not match the brilliant vision in your head. If you wait until the last minute, you have a built-in excuse for why it's not perfect. This could have been so much better if I'd had more time. Sound familiar? This is what psychologists call self-handicapping. Your brain would rather preserve the fantasy of your potential greatness than risk discovering your actual limitations. But here's the thing. Greatness isn't born from perfect first attempts. It's built through iteration, feedback, and improvement. The antidote to perfectionism paralysis is what I call strategic mediocrity. Give yourself permission to create something deliberately imperfect first. Set a timer for 25 minutes and see what you can produce. The goal isn't to create something amazing. It's to create something that exists, something you can improve. Here's a practical strategy. Before you start any important project, write down what good enough looks like. Not perfect, not terrible, but genuinely adequate. This gives your brain permission to start without the pressure of immediate excellence. You can always make it better later, but you can't improve something that doesn't exist. Chapter 5. The Strategic Pause. Now let's talk about turning procrastination into a superpower through strategic timing. Most people think the early bird always catches the worm, but sometimes the worm isn't ready to be caught yet. Sometimes waiting reveals opportunities that rushing would have missed. Steve Jobs was famous for this. He would often delay product launches, much to his team's frustration, because he sensed the timing wasn't right or the technology wasn't quite there yet. What looked like procrastination was actually strategic patience. He was waiting for the moment when all the pieces would align for maximum impact. You can apply this same principle to your own decisions. Before you automatically assume that faster is better, ask yourself, what might I learn by waiting? What information might become available? What might change in the landscape that could affect my approach? This doesn't mean waiting forever or using strategic timing as an excuse for fear-based avoidance. The key is conscious choice. You're not avoiding the task because it feels overwhelming. You're choosing to delay it because your intuition suggests better timing or more information would lead to a superior outcome. Here's how to tell the difference. Strategic procrastination feels calm and purposeful, even if others don't understand it. Anxiety-driven procrastination feels heavy and comes with guilt or worry. Strategic procrastination often involves doing related preparatory work. Anxiety-driven procrastination usually involves avoiding anything connected to the task. Try this. Next time you feel the urge to delay something important, pause and ask yourself, am I avoiding this because I'm afraid, or because my intuition is telling me the timing isn't optimal? Trust your answer. Chapter 6. The Power of Productive Procrastination. Here's where things get really interesting. What if, instead of fighting your procrastination, you could redirect it towards something valuable? This is called structured procrastination, and it's a game changer for anyone who struggles with traditional productivity methods. The idea is simple. Use your tendency to avoid important tasks as fuel for accomplishing other meaningful work. When you don't want to work on your main project, instead of scrolling through your phone or reorganizing your closet for the third time this month, have a list of secondary important tasks ready to go. Your brain wants to feel productive while avoiding the scary main task. So give it something genuinely productive to do. Maybe you can't bring yourself to write that report, but you could organize your research notes, update your resume, respond to emails, or work on a different project that's been on your back burner. This approach works because it honors your brain's natural resistance while still moving your life forward. You're not forcing yourself to do the one thing you're avoiding. You're channeling that avoidance energy into other valuable activities. Often, after accomplishing these secondary tasks, you'll find that your resistance to the main task has mysteriously decreased. The key is preparation. Create what I call a productive procrastination menu, a list of 10 to 15 meaningful tasks that you can turn to when you're avoiding your primary focus. Make sure these tasks are important enough to feel worthwhile, but not so overwhelming that you'll avoid them too. Chapter 7. Building your strategic procrastination system. Let's put this all together into a practical system you can actually use. Strategic procrastination isn't about being lazy or undisciplined. It's about becoming more intentional with your delays and more strategic about your timing. First, start tracking your procrastination patterns without judgment. For 1 week, simply notice when you procrastinate and what you do instead. Don't try to change anything yet. Just gather data. You might discover that you procrastinate most when you're tired, when tasks are poorly defined, or when you're worried about others' opinions. Second, create what I call procrastination protocols. These are predetermined responses to different types of avoidance. If you're avoiding something because it feels overwhelming, your protocol might be to break it into smaller pieces. If you're avoiding something because you're not sure how to start, your protocol might be to do 5 minutes of research or brainstorming first. Third, distinguish between productive delays and destructive delays. Set up some simple criteria. Productive delays involve some form of progress, learning, or valuable alternative activity. Destructive delays involve mindless distraction or activities that make you feel worse about yourself afterward. Fourth, embrace the power of artificial deadlines with buffer time. Instead of waiting for external deadlines, create your own that are earlier than the real ones. This gives you permission to procrastinate strategically while still ensuring you have time for quality work. Finally, develop what I call procrastination rituals. Specific activities you do when you're strategically delaying. This might be taking a walk while thinking about the problem, doing research without pressure to produce, or working on related but less intimidating tasks. Chapter 8. The long-term vision. When you master strategic procrastination, something beautiful happens. You stop being at war with yourself. You stop feeling guilty about your natural rhythms and start working with them instead of against them. This isn't just about getting more done. It's about doing better work with less internal friction. Think about the people you admire most. I'll bet many of them aren't the ones who rush into every decision or churn out work as fast as possible. They're probably the ones who take time to think, who seem to know when to act and when to wait, who produce work that feels thoughtful and well-considered. Strategic procrastination helps you join their ranks. It transforms you from someone who feels guilty about their natural tendencies into someone who leverages those tendencies for better outcomes. You become more creative because you give your ideas time to develop. You make better decisions because you don't rush into them. You produce higher quality work because you allow time for iteration and improvement. This approach also makes you more sustainable. Instead of constantly fighting your own psychology, you're working in harmony with it. This reduces stress, increases satisfaction, and ironically, often leads to higher productivity over the long term. The goal isn't to procrastinate everything. It's to become conscious about when you delay things, and to make those delays work for you instead of against you. Some tasks benefit from immediate action. Others benefit from strategic delay. Wisdom is knowing the difference. So there you have it. The unexpected power of strategic procrastination isn't about being lazy or undisciplined. It's about becoming more intentional, more creative, and more strategic in how you approach your work and decisions. Your tendency to delay might not be a bug in your system. It might be a feature you just haven't learned how to use properly yet. Remember, the goal isn't to eliminate procrastination. It's to transform it from a source of guilt and stress into a tool for better thinking and better outcomes. Start small. Pick one area where you typically procrastinate and try applying these strategies. Pay attention to what happens not just to your productivity, but to your stress levels and the quality of your work. If this resonated with you, try implementing the productive procrastination menu this week. Create that list of meaningful alternative tasks and see how it feels to redirect your avoidance energy towards something valuable. And if you found these insights helpful, consider subscribing for more counterintuitive approaches to productivity and personal growth. Sometimes the thing we think is our greatest weakness is actually our greatest strength in disguise.